Welcome back to the Born Blondes podcast. I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Miranda. How to do?
It's been a hot minute since we recorded, but today's episode is going to be very, very, very long.
Yep. Buckle in.
It's just, there's a lot to it. We are starting our Murder Monday in Alaska, right? Yes, we're in Alaska. So
our second Murder Monday, and unfortunately we couldn't find a woman for Alaska. So today's Murder Monday is a man. Tis a man.
Tis a man. And it's a long story, so we're going to jump right in. I do want to say thank you for letting us take a couple weeks off.
Yes.
Mental health is very important to us, and we're making sure to take care of that, and we hope you were too. So are you starting out?
Sure.
Let's jump in.
Only because I already have the paper in my hand.
Works for me.
We are talking about Robert Hansen. He was an American serial killer in Anchorage, Alaska between 1971 and 1983. He was also known as Bob the Baker.
Bob the Baker, can we bake it?
Ooh. Bob Hansen and the Butcher Baker. He's also known to have raped and assaulted over 30 women and was responsible for killing at least 17 women ranging from ages 16 to 41. Law enforcement suspects there could be at least 21 murder victims.
That's a lot.
At least. Also, a little side tangent real quick. It says Butcher Baker. He didn't butcher anybody.
No, he didn't.
Because I was reading this to Mitchell the other day, and he's like, "Where does the Butcher Baker fall into place?" And I was like,
"Probably just because it's probably just because it starts with a B."
It could be.
I don't know.
Or maybe because he had so many victims.
Right.
Could be as well. I forgot to start our little stopwatch here, but
oops.
All right. What about him?
Robert Christian Bose Hansen was born on February 15th, 1939 in Estherville, Iowa. He was the oldest of two children born to an American mother, Edna Margaret Hansen, and Danish father, Christian Chris Hansen, who was a local baker, and Robert was employed at his father's bakery.
Oh my God.
1942, the family moved to Richmond, California, but in 1949, they returned to Iowa and settled in Pocahontas. Careful, that ice maker is going to get you.
Bruh. Oh my God.
It's going to jump out and get you.
They settled in Pocahontas. I didn't even realize that was like a place in Alaska.
I didn't either.
Things you learn when you're doing murder research.
Research.
Research. When Hansen was younger, he was described as a quiet loner, painfully shy, had a stutter, and suffered from severe acne that would leave him permanently scarred. Through childhood and adolescence, he had a difficult relationship with his domineering father. Hansen often found refuge in practicing hunting and archery. Keyword on hunting that comes into play later. In 1957, he enlisted and served 1 year in the United States Army Reserve before being discharged. Later, he worked as an assistant drill instructor at a Pocahontas Police Academy. He would meet and begin a relationship with a younger woman and marry her in 1960.
Interesting.
I know, it's just so weird. He was kind of off to a good start.
Yeah.
Only kinda.
I'm going to say he's got daddy issues. Here we go. On December 7th, 1960, Hansen was arrested for burning down a Pocahontas County school bus garage.
Kind of off to a good start.
He did this as revenge for his mistreatment in high school. He was sentenced to 3 years in Anamosa State Penitentiary, but only served 20 months. During this time, his wife divorced him.
Good for her.
Yep. While incarcerated, Hansen was diagnosed with manic depression, which is now known as bipolar disorder, with periodic schizophrenic episodes. During this time, the psychiatrist also noted that he had infertile personality and had an obsession with getting back at people who he thought wronged him.
Well,
he was infertile.
Let's hope that he didn't reproduce. Over the next few years, Hansen was jailed several more times for petty theft. In 1963, he married his second wife, and with whom he had 2 children.
Whoop.
Apparently, he was not infertile.
He was fertile.
Fertile myrtle. In 1967, they moved to Anchorage, Alaska, where he was well liked by his neighbors and set several local hunting records. Again, note that. I'm laughing because it's uncomfortable.
I'm laughing because it's scary. In December 1971, Hansen
Don't hurt yourself.
I'm trying not to. Was arrested twice. The first arrest was for abducting and attempting to rape an unidentified housewife. Oh. He pleaded no contest to assault with a deadly weapon. The second arrest was for raping an unidentified sex worker, but this charge was dropped as part of a plea bargain. Since the second charge was dropped, he was only sentenced to 5 years in prison for the rape and abduction of the unidentified housewife. After only serving 6 months of his 5-year sentence, he was placed in a work release program and moved to a halfway house.
If only they would have kept him in jail this time.
If only.
We wouldn't be reading this story right now. In 1976, Hansen was arrested again and pled guilty to larceny or theft. After attempting to steal a chainsaw from an Anchorage Fred Meyer store. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, and as a part of his sentence, he was required to receive psychiatric? Apparently that's what I need. I can't even say it now.
Psychiatric.
Thank you. Treatment for his manic depression. The Alaskan Supreme Court reduced Hansen's sentence, and he was released with time served.
Imagine that.
This motherfucker.
It is believed that Hansen started killing around 1971. Excuse me. It was weak. His modus operandi, or MO, was said to be stalking women to learn their habits, eventually picking her up in his car and forcing her at gunpoint to his home. He would then rape her and stab or shoot her. Some of the women murdered were sex workers, but most were teenagers. Later, investigators would find a murder map with X's of locations of possible victims.
Again, keep that in mind. That comes into play later. All right, first victim. Authorities believe that Hansen's first murder victim was Celia Van Zanten, who was only 18 years old. On December 22nd, 1971, Van Zanten was kidnapped while walking to a nearby supermarket. Her body was discovered on December 25th at a Chugach State Park, where her chest had been sliced with a knife and she had been bound and subjected to sexual assault. While still alive, Van Zanten was dumped in a deep ravine before freezing to death.
Deaf.
Freezing to death. This poor girl. Forensic evidence showed that Van Zanten tried to climb back up the ravine, but wasn't able to because of the bindings. Van Zanten's
abduction.
I hate
abduction.
Abduction occurred 3 days after Hansen committed the assault on the sex worker for which she was previously imprisoned. There is no conclusive evidence linking Hansen to Van Zanten's abduction, but Hansen was accused of this murder because of an X on his murder map, matched the location where Van Zanten was found. Hansen denied any involvement in this murder.
Of course he did. He's like, no, what's me?
He gives me Ted Bundy vibes.
Yeah, kind of.
Just denying everything. And
deny. Yeah. It is believed that his next victim was 17-year-old Megan Sioban Emmerich. Megan was attending Seward Skill Center boarding school, where she was last seen leaving a dorm laundry room on July 7th, 1973. She left behind all of her personal belongings, including her identification, and still has not been seen, heard from, or found since leaving the laundromat. That was very enunciated. Her roommate...
Robotic.
Her roommate looked for her for 3 days before contacting the police. Hansen admitted he was in Seward on the day she vanished, but denied murdering Emmerich. Guilty. He is only thought to be responsible for Emmerich's murder because of an X on his murder map in the Seward region. Allegedly, Hansen told a former inmate that he transported Emmerich to a cabin in the Seaward region, only reachable by boat, where he killed and buried her.
These poor women. I can't even imagine this type of...
It's already so bad, and we have so many more victims to go through. And
I know, this is
like I said, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I am uncomfortable.
Yes. On July 5th, 1975, 22-year-old Mary Kathleen Thill went missing from Seward. Thill had been driven into town by a friend and dropped off at a local bakery. An acquaintance saw Mary between 1:30 and 2 o'clock p.m. Hello?
Could you imagine being the friend that dropped her off?
I know.
Ugh.
The guilt that is probably weighing on that poor girl.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine.
I couldn't either.
An acquaintance saw Mary between 1:30 and 2 o'clock by a waterfall near her home, Lowell Point Road, where she had not been seen or heard from since. English is hard. That was me. It's just getting through the sentence. Hansen again admitted to being in Seward. Seward? Yeah. Seward. On the day of Mary's disappearance, but denied murdering her. He was suspected in Mary's murder because of an X on his murder map in the area of Resurrection Bay. Allegedly, Hansen admitted to a former inmate that he killed and discarded Mary's body in Resurrection Bay.
My question is, if you're going to admit it to, like...
Allegedly.
Roommates and inmates and all of that, like, why not just admit it to the police?
That's true.
Like... Whatever.
You're not wrong.
A set of unidentified remains were found by hold on, let me start over. A set of unidentified remains were found by construction workers buried next to a power line in a wooded area off of South Eklutna Lake Road on July 21st, 1980. Because she was never identified, investigators nicknamed her Eklutna Annie. According to Hansen, she was either a topless dancer or a prostitute, and he admitted to stabbing her in the back when she made an effort to flee from his car. He claimed that this was his first murder victim. Her body was largely consumed by wildlife by the time that she was found.
Oh.
So if you're going to admit to some murders, why not just admit to them all?
Right. I mean, you would think.
You would think.
But also just don't commit any of the murders. How about that?
That part.
No. On May 19th, 1980, Hansen went on a dinner date with a 24-year-old Joanna Messina. According to Hansen, the date was going smoothly until Joanna offered him sex in exchange for cash. Yeah, right. Hansen refused the offer. Yeah, right. But also refused to release Joanna. He drove Joanna and her dog to a secluded place by the Snow River. He hit Joanna with a .22 caliber revolver before shooting her twice and shot the dog. What the fuck did the dog do to you?
Where did the dog come from?
We were researching this and we read that part and I was like, where the fuck? What? Why would you take a dog on a date?
Who knows?
And then that poor dog fucking died because of it.
Right?
Should have kept him at home. After shooting Joanna, he dumped her body in a gravel pit, took her dog and Joanna's belongings into the woods, and threw the gun in the Snow River. Joanna was found on July 8th, but her body was severely decomposed and eaten by wildlife.
Yummy.
I can't even imagine.
On June 28th, 1980, 24-year-old Roxanne Eastland vanished from the Budget Motel on Bernard Road in Anchorage, where she had been residing with her boyfriend for the previous 2 weeks. She had plans to meet an unnamed man downtown on 4th Avenue for unknown reasons. Hansen admitted to murdering her, but her body was never found. Well, I'll tell you, the unnamed man was Robert Hansen, and unknown reasons was murder.
41-year-old Lisa Futrell. Futrell?
Yeah.
Sorry. Some of these last names.
Some of the last names and city names are things.
You're not wrong.
Like Eckhart, or what was it?
Eklutna.
Eklutna. We had to look up how to say that.
We had to look up
how to say a lot.
Quite a bit of these. Lisa worked at a nightclub where she met Hansen and was later kidnapped on September 6, 1980. Her 2 younger roommates reported her missing when she didn't return home after her shift on September 7th. Her body was found buried next to a gravel pit south of the former Knik Arm Bridge on May 9th, 1984.
On September 12th, 1982, a shallow grave was found by hunters on the banks of Knik River. The remains were identified as 23-year-old Sherry Morrow. We're going to say Morrow. Or if you ask Randa, it's Cheryl Marrow or whatever she kept saying. Sherry. Yes. On November 17th, 1981, Sherry told her friends that she was meeting a photographer who promised her $300 for nude images. Sherry was shot 3 times in the back with a .223 Ruger Mini 14 hunting rifle. The body was found fully clothed, but the clothing didn't have any bullet holes, suggesting that she was shot while naked and then redressed before being buried.
This motherfucker.
Literally.
On December 2nd, 1981, 21. 24-year-old Andrea Mona Fish Altieri.
Yeah, I would say Altieri.
Was last seen getting into a taxi to go to the Boniface Mall, where she would meet an unnamed male for a photo shoot and to perform exotic dances. During the search of Hansen's home, several of Andrea's possessions were discovered, one of them being her fish necklace. Hansen admitted that after he met Andrea, he threatened her with a gun and abducted her while blindfolding and handcuffing her. They took a service
kind of
road.
Blinded.
I mean, yeah. They took a service road off Palmer Highway near Knik Arm Bridge, where he unbound her and abused her sexually. After she retaliated, he killed her with a .22 Browning automatic pistol. He stole her necklace, weighed down a duffel bag with gravel, tied it to her, and threw her over the bridge. Her body still hasn't been found. Done with that one.
Oh boy. 23-year-old Sue Luna agreed to a $300 photo shoot with a nightclub patron. She met Hansen in an Anchorage diner parking lot on May 26, 1982. The following day, she was reported missing. Hansen abducted, killed, and buried her near Knik River, and her body was discovered on April 24, 1984, with gunshot wounds. Hansen reported that he made Luna run into the forest naked and hunted her like an animal.
I can't.
Me either.
Could you imagine?
No. At that point, I'd just stand there and be like, you know what? If you're going to do it, just do it.
Literally.
I'm not going to be here for your entertainment.
Yeah. Quit with the mind games. Just do it. On April 25th, 1984, in Palmer, Alaska, near Horseshoe Lake, partial skeletal remains were found. Investigators nicknamed her Horseshoe Harriet, and it was determined that she had been stabbed and shot. In October 2021, forensic genealogy identified the remains as 19-year-old Robin Pelkey. Pelkey was residing in Anchorage when she vanished on July 19th, 1983.
19th of July.
I mean, I guess I could have said that too.
That's all good.
Either way would have worked.
On August 20th, 1985, while a pilot was trying out his new tires, he discovered a body on a Knik River sandbar, buried as a Jane Doe until 1989, when Alaska State Trooper recognized her jewelry in a case file photo and identified her as 22-year-old Dylan Sugar Renee Frey. She had last been seen in March of 1983.
30-year-old Paula Golding was abducted by Hansen on April 25th, 1983. They drove to his aircraft, and once they reached a remote spot, she fought with him in an attempt to flee, but Hansen shot her with a .223 rifle. I don't know how you say that.
It's 223.
Golding's body was discovered in a shallow grave near Knik River on September 2nd, 1983. She was wounded in the back, but her clothing was undamaged, so it's possible she was naked when shot and was clothed before being buried. That
It's almost
sounds
like
familiar.
an MO.
Yeah.
Oh boy, here we go.
I'm really happy
Oh,
that
boy.
you got the long one.
On June 13th, 1983, Hansen offered 17-year-old Cindy Paulson $200 to perform oral sex.
$300 is a lot of money.
Don't look that up on Wikipedia.
Oh my fucking God. That was graphic. Wikipedia is now like soft porn.
It's
Can you say that
something.
on a podcast?
I have no idea. Well, we are now.
I just did.
As soon as she got into the car, he pulled out a .357 Magnum and drove her to his home in Muldoon, a neighborhood on the east side of Anchorage. This is where he held her captive and proceeded to rape and torture her. While recounting her story later, Paulson told police that Hansen chained her by the neck to a post in his basement and took a nap on a nearby couch.
Oh my God.
Once he woke up, he put her in his car and took her to Merrill Field, which is a public general aviation airport. Hansen then informed Paulson that he intended to take her to a shack near the Knik River area of the Matanuska
I'm so glad you got this one.
Sustina Valley, which was only accessible by boat or bush plane. Bush plane. Paulson was crouched.
Paulson was what?
Crouched. What almost came out of my mouth was crotcheted. Crotcheted.
I saw that coming. Anyway.
Paulson was crouched in the back seat of Hansen's car where her wrists were cuffed in front of her body. Hansen threatened to kill her if she tried to escape. Even though she was threatened if she fled, she saw a chance to escape when Hansen was busy loading his Piper PA-18 Super Cub cockpit. Hansen's back was turned when Paulson crawled out of the back seat, opened the driver's side door, and ran towards nearby 6th Avenue. Paulson had left her blue sneakers on the passenger side floor as evidence she had been in Hansen's car.
Smart girl.
Even though Hansen panicked and chased her, Paulson reached 6th Avenue and managed to flag down a passing truck before Hansen could reach her. Robert Yount, the truck driver...
Yount.
I'm going to say Yount. Whatever. Yount.
Yount.
Something. Was alarmed by Paulson's appearance and stopped to pick her up.
I can't.
He drove her to the Mush Inn, and she jumped out of the truck and ran inside, where she pleaded with the clerk to call her boyfriend at the Big Timber Hotel. Yount continued the drive to work, but he called the police to report the incident. That was a whole lot of words.
Yes. Anchorage Police Department, APD, officers arrived at the Mush Inn. Mush.
Mush. Mish. Mickey Mouse.
That was fucking good. I can't.
Sorry, I needed a comedic relief just for a second.
This is where we always start to lose it. Mush Inn, and they were told that Paulson had taken a cab to the Big Timber Hotel. When APD officers arrived at the hotel, they found Paulson in room 110, still handcuffed and alone. Paulson was taken to APD headquarters and described her attacker. Hello. Hansen was later questioned by APD officers, but he denied Paulson's accusations, stating that she was trying to cause trouble because he would not pay her extortion demands, and this excuse would become one Hansen had used on other occasions. Even though Hansen had several prior run-ins with the law, his unassuming,
also unamusing.
Yes. Demeanor and humble occupation as a baker, paired with an alibi from his friend John Henning, would persuade police not to consider him as a serious suspect. Cindy is the only victim to escape Hansen's attacks.
Jeez.
Good for her.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I
love
wish
that.
there was more that would have escaped, though.
I 100% agree, but I really love the fact that she put, I don't know if it was on purpose or on accident, but leaving her blue sneakers in his truck was brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I got another really, really, really long paragraph. Hang on.
It's a fucking sentence.
On July 10th, 1981, 28-year-old Melanie Larson. No, that's Malai. Malai Larson was reported missing.
I like
her
Melanie.
body.
That's a cute name.
Melanie is cute.
Very cute.
Her body was discovered in a parking lot by Connect River. Hold on, this is going so well. The paragraph is so long that I can't get through it. Good gravy. Her body was
struggling.
Her body was discovered in a parking lot by Knick Arm Bridge on April 24th, 1984.
So he clearly has, one, an MO.
Yes.
And two, an obsession with the Knick River, Knick Arm Bridge.
I feel like it's just convenient.
Yeah, that's just
convenient.
Listen. 22-year-old Teresa Watson was last seen in Anchorage on March 25th, 1983, when she informed her roommate that she was meeting a man who was going to pay her $300 in exchange for an hour or two of company.
Where have I heard that before?
I know, that sounds real familiar. Hansen abducted and killed Watson at Scenic Lake, but was unable to bury her because the ground was still frozen. He abandoned her there, and her body was discovered on April 26, 1984.
Oh, boy. I feel like after...
the first,
after I feel like after Paulson escaped, it should have, gone a lot quicker than this and not had so much more
murders after
victims. He had four more after her.
It's weird because this is also, I believe, around the same time as Ted Bundy and the other infamous serial killers, but I feel like the justice system back then and the police system and how they just
I feel like forensic just wasn't as up to date as
100%. So a lot of people back then got away with it for so long until so many lives were taken,
right?
And then it was
wait a second,
yeah.
24-year-old Angela Lynn Fettern was last seen in Anchorage on 4th Avenue sometime in February 1983. Fettern was dancing at a nightclub, and the owner didn't report her missing until May. On April 26, 1984, near Figure 8 Lake, Fettern's body was found.
I kind of like that name. Does it look like
Fettern?
No, the Figure 8
Oh, Figure 8 Lake?
Does it look like an 8?
I don't know. You tell us. Anyway. Cute.
That was just for you, my love.
Thanks.
That tasted like pizza rolls.
Ew.
Just in case you were wondering.
Ew.
20-year-old nightclub dancer Tamara Tammy Pedersen was last heard from on August 7th, 1982, during a phone call to her parents stating she was offered money to pose for photographs. Wow, this also sounds so familiar.
Where have I heard that before?
Homeboy's got an MO. Also, $300 is a lot of money.
Is it, though? I mean,
it is.
in today's day and age, it is not.
Well, the one that we're doing research on now, spoiler alert, he offered her, $5.
At least Hansen was fair? Question mark.
I mean, he just spit out a number. He never actually paid them.
That's true.
He could have been $1,000.
Right.
Then you know what I mean?
That's true.
They never actually got the money, which is unfortunate.
Shocker.
Her body was found after Hansen confessed, and pointed out the location on his murder map. Pedersen's body was recovered 1.5 miles from the Old Knick Bridge on April 29th, 1984. It looks like my printer decided to It's like gray. Do you see that? Or is that just me? Am I bugging?
Oh, no. It did switch it.
Printer was like, this is a lot, you guys.
I don't know if it was you or your computer. Or your printer or your computer. Anyway. Alaskan State Trooper Detective Glenn
Flouthy.
Floathy was part of an investigation team for the discovery of several bodies in and around the Anchorage Seaward and a Matanuska Sistina Valley areas.
I'm so glad you got
Let
that
me just
one
trip
twice.
over all of these words. The first body was the Alukna Annie. Joanna Messina's body was found later that year, and the third body was 23-year-old Sherry Morrow.
These poor women, I can't.
Detective Floathy believed all these women had been murdered by the same person.
I'm only laughing because I freaking hated that word when we were researching.
Yes.
Every time we would like reread the paragraph, I would always be like, something, something valley.
Something Valley.
So for Aubrey to have
You're welcome.
2 of the paragraphs that have it in there, it really made me feel good inside that way. It wasn't me. Love you.
Uh-huh.
Floathy reached out to FBI Special Agent John Douglas to request help with a criminal profile based on the 3 recovered bodies. The profile predicted that the killer would be an experienced hunter with low self-esteem, have a history of being rejected by women, and feel compelled to keep souvenirs such as victims' jewelry. It was also suggested that the assailant might stutter. Today... Sorry, that was really rude. I apologize. Flouthy. Oh, I forgot the I on this one. Typo. Oh, whoever typed
How dare
this up
you.
is a loser.
Blame it on the tech guy.
Yes. Floathy investigated possible suspects using this profile until he reached Hansen, who not only fit the profile, but also owned a plane.
Imagine that.
Caught ya, motherfucker.
Gotcha.
Caught you $1.
Gotcha life sentence. With Paulson's testimony and Douglas's profile, Floathy was able to secure a warrant to search Hansen's plane, vehicles, and home. The warrant was
plane was like plane. You did that last time too.
what?
The way you just said plane was like question mark.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hansen's plane.
Sorry.
No, it's totally fine.
The warrant was served on October 27th, 1983. During the search, the investigators would find jewelry belonging to some of the missing women, an array of firearms in a corner hideaway of the attic, and hidden between Hansen's headboard was an aeronautical chart with 37 little X marks. Many of these X's matched sites where bodies had been found, and others were discovered later at other locations that were marked. This being the murder map.
Dun dun dun.
All of the evidence found during this this search was enough to arrest Hansen.
During this search,
We're gonna search this place.
Hansen was confronted with the evidence found in his home and tried to deny it for as long as possible. Wow, I'm not surprised.
Shocker.
Hansen began to blame his victims and tried to justify his actions. Eventually, he would start confessing as each item of evidence was presented to him.
He was just like, yeah, I'm caught. I guess that was me.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to sugarcoat my way out of this. Yep, it was me. It was all me. He admitted to a spree of attacks on women starting in 1971. Hansen was charged with assault, kidnapping, multiple weapon offenses, theft, and insurance fraud. We couldn't find any information regarding this insurance fraud, but he claimed that some of his trophies were stolen and used the insurance payout to purchase his plane. It ended up being a fraud because he later recovered the bodies in his backyard and forgot to tell insurance.
Imagine that.
So the insurance fraud paid for the plane that he attempted to use to lure a couple women to his to a remote
Right.
area. It took me a second to get out. I apologize.
Hansen,
toast.
Hansen's lawyer pushed for a plea bargain after ballistics tests returned with a match between the bullets found at the crime scene and Hansen's rifles. He would plead guilty to the 4 homicides that police had evidence for these being Morrow, Messina, Goulding, and Eklutna Annie, and decipher the markings on his murder map to help locate the bodies of his other victims in return for no publicity in the press and being able to serve his sentence in a federal prison. Hansen also confirmed the police theory of how the women were abducted and stated he would let potential victims go if they could convince him that they wouldn't go to the police. I wonder if that's why
I was just thinking
we don't.
Polson. Oh,
well, I'm just curious, like with the plea bargain about not going to the press or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm curious if that's why we don't know him as well as we know, like Ted Bundy and like the Zodiac
like
killer,
Jeffrey
and
Dahmer,
I'm curious if that's why.
I also am confused because I feel like some of these serial killers want the attention.
Right.
So I'm confused why he didn't want the publicity. Whereas, like,
it's hard saying.
That's true. Like Ted Bundy, like he literally acted as his own attorney.
But at the same time, like if you knew you weren't going to get the publicity, why didn't you just admit to all of them?
Right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Like you already admitted to some. Why not just admit to them all?
Because he was mentally ill.
Clearly.
Yes. Hansen showed investigators 17 grave sites in and around south central Alaska. 12 of the 17 grave sites were unknown to investigators. Hansen refused to reveal some of the remaining marks on his murder map, including 3 in Resurrection Bay. It is suspected that 2 of the marks on the graves of Mary Thill and Megan Emmerich, both of which Hansen denied killing. 12 sets of remains were exhumed by police and returned to their families, but there is a possibility of 21 to 37 victims. It's really nice that they found the 12 sets of remains.
Right,
and
but
those families were able to have like closure and
absolutely.
A funeral.
But what about the rest of them? Like that's the thing. Like if you're going to admit to some, why not just admit to them all and give those families the closure that they deserve?
Right. And I mean, they still might not even get all of the answers, but I feel like having the body,
at least let them put their loved one to rest.
100%.
In a proper way.
100%.
Like
I couldn't even imagine. It's so sad.
It is. Hansen was sentenced to a total of 461 years.
How long?
461 years. One more time, that is 461 years.
461 years. Yes, he was awful.
That is several lifetimes.
That's more than several lifetimes.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's a lot of fucking years.
461 years in prison without the possibility of parole.
Dude, he was
in prison first at the United States Penitentiary in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, before returning to Alaska in 1988, where he was briefly incarcerated at Lemon Creek Correctional Center, and then was moved to Spring Creek Correctional Center, where he would stay until May of 2014.
2014.
He was transported to Anchorage Correctional Complex for health reasons, and on August 21st, 2014, Hansen died at 75 due to natural causes at the Alaska Regional Hospital in Anchorage.
I am going to say a hot take here.
Should have killed the motherfucker?
Yeah. We shouldn't have waited for natural causes to take him.
Right. I'm curious if Alaska is a like no kill state.
It has to be, or at least back then.
Like no death penalty.
You know, we should have looked that up.
We should have.
I'm curious. But I also feel like that's really, really a hot take and like something morbid for me to even say. But also, he took so many lives.
And I'm so back and forth with the death penalty. Like, every part of me is like, yes, do it. But then I have listened to so much true crime and watched so much true crime that at the same time, I'm partially against it, because there are so many cases of like accidental,
like
or
wrongfully convicted.
Or, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Like, wrongfully convicted, and that's not fair to kill them when they literally did nothing.
Right.
So unless you can like 100% prove that they did it, I'm against the death penalty. But at the same time, it's so hard to 100% determine that they did it, because some of these people were guilty just by
association.
Well, just by like pleading guilty, and most of the time they were
like
almost coerced into.
Right.
So it's
no, I definitely get what
so
you're
weird
saying,
with
but
it.
Also, something like this, when there's like a legit serial killer and there's more than one victim, I feel like regardless of how much, well, I guess I can't really say that because I don't.
According to Google, Alaska does not have a death penalty.
Oh, well, then that's why he
was sentenced to 461 years.
That's insane.
It is insane.
Like, what? That's crazy to me. That's such a long time, obviously.
Right.
And like, obviously there's no way that he would have made it 461 years.
Right.
And then he would get out, because that's just not fucking possible.
And that's probably why they did it. They made it so unbelievably long that there was no way he could survive through all of it to actually get out.
Right. So either way, he was dying in prison regardless.
Correct.
If it was death penalty or if it was just natural causes. But 2014 is crazy to me.
Yeah. Like, he was alive in our lifetime, and that makes me gross. That makes me gross. That makes me feel gross.
Yeah. Doing these kinds of stories and just hearing what these women had to like endure English, tomato, it's just so heartbreaking.
It really is.
And it's so sickening that we live in a world that this happens. Like, this is a true story. This isn't made up. This isn't fiction that Stephen King fucking wrote about. Like, this is legit, and that's what is so bone chilling. Is it's legit. Like, there's people out there that do this.
And like, I don't want to say I enjoy true crime, but I do enjoy listening to it. But it's in my head, I almost have to turn off the fact that
it's real.
It's real.
And you have to like disassociate that it's like a real thing.
Like, I like all the background, and like, I wanted to go into like forensic science.
Right.
So like, I like the investigation. I like kind of hearing how everything was solved, but the only way for me to get through it is to just see it as a story.
Right.
And at the end of the day, though, it's like, no, that was fucking real.
100%. I listen to Bailey Sarian on YouTube, and she does pretty much what we're doing, but she does her makeup while she does it. And there's so many stories that she touches on that I haven't even heard of. Like, she doesn't just do like the infamous like Ted Bundy and like Jeffrey Dahmer. She does just random ass people like what we're doing. And it's just so, I cannot get over the fact that like this is real life, and this is someone's true reality.
Yeah.
Like some family's reality of losing a loved one in this particular way. And it's crazy. Again,
really
like, I like true crime too, but I also have to be like, oh, it's just a made up story.
But there's also been times, because I listen to my podcast while I'm working, and there has been a couple times while I'm at work that it will hit me really hard. And like, I've had to stop myself from crying at work.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's just, I'm speechless right now. It's
Me
just,
too.
everything behind it is just,
it's just
sad.
Awful.
There really is no words for it.
I would really love to know the like psychology, yes, of what goes on in a person's brain.
Right.
Or like what switch goes off.
Right.
For them to be, I mean, he didn't have a great upbringing. Like, he was, had some daddy issues.
Obviously bullied in school.
Acne, the stutter, like the whole nine. Like, a lot of these serial killers, it starts with a shitty upbringing, shitty parents, either one or the other or both.
Right. But at the same time, like, if it was about revenge, why didn't you go after those people? Like, why
That's
didn't you go
true.
after your parents? Why didn't you go after your bullies? Like, why are you going after some
Innocent
random chick
women.
on the street?
Yeah. Regardless of if they were sex workers or not.
Right. And I mean, it's so hard to understand, and it's
It
something
really
that we
is.
probably never will understand.
No, but it's weird to me that it happens in multiple people.
Right.
Like there's multiple serial killers and multiple, even just people who kill one person.
Right.
Like it's in people among us, and I'm curious, like
How? Why?
why?
Yeah.
What's the science behind this? Like, is
Yeah.
it like literally in their DNA and they're just born with it, and then they reach a certain age and it clicks and it goes off, and
Right.
then they have a thing for that? Or I
It's
don't
hard
know.
to say. But this one was a tough one, so please make sure you're taking care of yourself after this one. Make sure
Yep.
you're giving yourself a nice little mental break if you are like us and had to turn it off and tell yourself that it was just a story, then please do that.
Yep. Also, if you have to skip our Murder Mondays
Yes, ever.
to protect yourself and your well-being and your self-care, please do.
Yes.
Come join us with
Join us on the
any
next
other
one.
topics that we have. Or
Yeah.
I'm actually really surprised this wasn't as long as we thought it would be.
Yeah, we definitely thought it was going to be a lot
hour.
longer. Yeah.
But we read fast and we were pretty good.
Yeah.
We didn't
So-
stutter too much.
Stutter. High five.
Yay.
Alrighty.
Oh, we want to hear your thoughts down below on what you
Yes.
thought about this story. So make sure you comment those, and if you have any specific serial killer or person you want us to touch on that's outside of our Murder Monday by states,
Yes.
please drop that down below. We would love to
Or
look
if you
into
have
it.
like smaller serial killers, we don't. Eventually, we'll touch like the Ted Bundys and like the big, like
Infamous
Jeffrey
ones,
Dahmers
yeah.
and the ones that you know. But right now, we're kind of trying to find the smaller ones. So if you have a smaller one that you think
Right.
we should look into, let us know.
Because those infamous ones, you've heard it
Everybody
a
knows.
ton. There's documentaries, there's
Yeah.
Netflix, there's a ton of people who've done that. So we wanted to do something that maybe nobody would touch on, which is why we're doing by states, like
Yes.
smaller serial killers, I guess. But anyway, thank you
less
so
known.
much. Yes. Thank you so much for joining this week's
Yay.
episode. We love you, and again, appreciate you for letting us take a break.
Yes. And
Will probably happen again in the future.
because this one is a little bit later, unfortunately in 2 weeks we're going to have another Murder Monday, so we can get back on that
Yes.
every 3 week schedule.
Yes.
So
you have this one. We'll have another regular
Yes.
a regular schmegular episode, and then we'll have Murder Monday in Arizona.
yes.
So
We will see you guys next week. We love you, and goodbye.
bye. Take care of yourself.
Please.
Got